What Happened to American Tennis is a video series that I did in 2021 because back then, not only was I scared about pickleball putting tennis in danger, there was also no way that an American man was going to win a Grand Slam title. Let's face it. In that video, I showed a ranking from 1991 and a ranking from 2021 where Derek Rostaño, the 10th American, was ranked higher than the number one American in 2021, which was John Isner. Now, I don't make What Happened to American Tennis videos anymore because American tennis is doing great. We have 5 guys in the top 20, and in my opinion, the top 5 Americans all have a chance to go very deep in Grand Slam tournaments. Ben Shelton proved it last year. Tiafoe and Fritz proved it this year. Now, there's nothing more that America wants than to see an American champion at the US Open, something that hasn't happened since 2003 when Andy Roddick won the US Open, beating Juan Carlos Ferrero in the final. See, the thing is, Fritz was very close, but yet so far away. Why? Because there has been a European dominance at Grand Slam tournaments since 2003. Because while Andy Roddick won that US Open, you know who else won his first Grand Slam tournament in 2003? It was Roger Federer winning Wimbledon. Then in 2005, Rafa wins his first Grand Slam at the French. In 2008, Djokovic wins his first Grand Slam at the Australian Open. And if I go back to that video in 2021, I could have not foreseen what was going to happen because I was quite worried for American tennis, partially because of the threat of pickleball, which turned out to be not a threat at all, but it's a story for another day. But also for the fact that even in 2021, I could foresee the big three not being around much longer. And I actually thought that the ATP was going to turn into the old WTA, where there were going to be so many different Grand Slam champions. See, the WTA has stabilized quite a bit in the last few years, where we have players like Swiatek, Sabalenka, who have separated themselves from the other players. But unbelievably so, the big three have been replaced with the big two, Alcaraz and Sinner, who have won all the Grand Slam tournaments in 2024. And the thing that's so tough for these great American players that do have a chance to win the US Open is that they have to go through that impenetrable European roadblock. Djokovic is miraculously still around, capable of doing big things. So in order to win a Grand Slam, you're going to have to go through Djokovic, Alcaraz, Sinner, even Medvedev, who has won a Grand Slam. So the chances of an American going through these guys in late stages of the tournaments are unfortunately very low. So Fritz was close to winning this one, but yet so far away. Because if you watched my final preview video, I made a strengths and weaknesses chart, and it was clear that Sinner had a huge advantage from the baseline. So Fritz had to serve well in this match to keep it close. And in the press conference, Fritz said that he wasn't really nervous before the final, and he was definitely more nervous before the semifinal. And that's completely understandable because he went into that semifinal having won 6 in a row against Tiafoe, and there was a tremendous amount of pressure. He did not want to lose that match, where going into the final, he was the underdog and played with nothing to lose. Now, I'll never forget a statement from Mats Wilander, and he said, if you're not feeling the nerves before a match, there is something wrong. And while you can never generalize players, it's an individual sport. Players have different personality types, and it surely is possible to play your best tennis when you're not feeling the nerves, when you're playing freely. There's also some truth in that, where if you are not feeling the nerves, you might be lacking some of that sense of urgency in the match that you naturally have when you are nervous. And that's what I saw with Fritz in the first set. He only got 38% of first serves into play, got broken 3 times, and it's going to be impossible to win a set against Sinner with those stats. It's not a good matchup for Fritz from the baseline, because if you watch some of these rallies and you just listen to the sound of the ball, when Sinner hits that ball, it sounds completely different to where Fritz hits that ball. Now, to be fair, the sound that Sinner makes when he hits the ball, I don't hear it from a lot of other players. He is the hardest ball striker on tour. But fact is that because of the advantage from the baseline and the advantage in movement, Sinner has a huge upper hand when the ball's in play. Now, Sinner was not on top of his game in that first set, because after he broke Fritz and went up 2-love, he actually lost his serve, missed an easy swing volley up 2-1 break point down on his serve, which put Fritz back into the match. And Fritz had a small window of opportunity up 3-2 in that first set. It was 15-30 on Sinner's serve, where he missed an easy backhand. Sinner then proceeded to hold that game, and at 3-all, Fritz got broken. And then he lost his serve again at 5-3, which I thought was very important for Sinner because he got to serve first in the second set. Now, Fritz did start serving a lot better in the second set and was able to hold all the way to down 4-5. But again, in the baseline rallies, Sinner was dominating him. On top of that, Fritz was also committing quite a few unforced errors with his forehand and his backhand. And in that game, down 4-5, Fritz serving, he missed a couple of easy backhands into the net, got broken, and now he was down 2-love to Sinner. And at this moment in time, I thought that Sinner was going to cruise and win that third set comfortably, but shockingly so, Sinner, right from the get-go in that third set, started serving poorly and was down love 40. He ended up holding that game. So Sinner held a couple more times, and Fritz serving down 2-3 was able to save a couple of break points, and that's when the crowd erupted. That's where Fritz's energy was the highest in this match. The stadium was going crazy, and Fritz was able to get the break at 3-all. Ended up holding serve, and he was up 5-3. And Fritz was playing well at this moment in time. But this is where Sinner showed that he's a champion, because his level did drop in that third set, but he was able to recover his level pretty quick. Held serve at 5-3. Played really well to break serve, to tie the score at 5-all. Held serve again at 6-5, and then played a very solid, consistent game, up 6-5 in the third. Broke Fritz and won his first US Open title. See, the nice thing about Sinner, apart from him being a very humble guy and down to earth, is that he's an incredibly hard worker. And in the press conference, he said that he's very happy about winning his US Open, but there are a lot of things that he can improve on in his game. His shot selection. He even said that his movement can be better. Also, his performances on other surfaces. Because if you look at his hard court record, ever since that Davis Cup victory, he only lost 2 matches on hard court. He lost to Alcaraz in Indian Wells, and he lost to Rublev in Montreal. So he's been absolutely dominant on the hard courts. And you better believe Sinner is going to improve his level on clay and grass, and he's going to have a huge chance to get a lot of titles on those surfaces as well. I think Fritz and Tiafoe can be proud of themselves. American tennis is in a good place. The US Open broke the attendance record. There were over 1 million attendees for the first time in the tournament history. There was a real buzz around that semifinal match between Tiafoe and Fritz. There's a lot to be proud of. But what we're talking about here is an American winning the US Open, and it's just so difficult. And while certainly there could be situations where the draw opens up, like in 2020 where we had a Team Zverev final, things like that can happen. But if any of these American guys has to go through some of these big guys, Medvedev, Djokovic, Alcaraz, Sinner, the chances of beating these guys at the most important stages of the tournaments are unfortunately very low. So Fritz was very close, Tiafoe was very close, but yet so far away. Because the thing about champions is that they play their best tennis when it matters the most. See, Fritz played his best tennis prior to the final, and he didn't play his best tennis in the final. Do you remember how Sinner played in the first set and the very beginning of the second set against McDonald in the first round? This is some of the worst tennis that I've seen Sinner play. And in a lot of my other videos, I talked about the fact that all these champions raise their level and they access their best tennis in the most important stages, and that's truly the sign of a great champion. And looking ahead, there are some exciting things happening in the tennis world. Don't tune off now that the US Open is over. We got the Laver Cup, we got some Master Series tournaments, we got the World Tour finals, we even have Davis Cup. There are a lot of exciting things happening. I'm going to be covering a lot of this. To me, the interesting thing is going to be the ATP race, because Djokovic is currently number 9. It's going to be interesting to see whether the Joker can qualify for the year-end championships. And it's also going to be interesting to see whether Carlos Alcaraz can recover his form. People are already selecting their favorites for the Australian Open. Hey, it's too early. Remember what flipped Jannik Sinner's career? It was Davis Cup towards the end of last year. It wasn't the US Open. So a lot of things can still happen. Tennis never sleeps. I'm going to be covering a lot of these tournaments. On top of that, I am still looking for a racket. I'm going to be testing a lot of rackets in the next month and hopefully find one that I like. I'm going to be making a bunch of videos on that. There are also going to be some match play videos and some lessons. So if you haven't yet, subscribe to Intuitive Tennis, and I'll see you in the next video.